Is natural bodybuilding dead? And I don't mean the lifestyle of building your physique naturally, that'll always be alive and well. I mean specifically the sport, the structured sport of competitive, drug-tested bodybuilding. The drug-tested natural federations. Are they on their deathbed, at least on the bodybuilding side of things? And why? What happened? So let's step back for a second. First and foremost, the most well-known organization to compete in bodybuilding in is the NPC. This is a non-drug tested federation. That means they do not test you for steroids or any performance-enhancing drugs. This does not mean that they encourage it or condone it. They don't, but they don't test you for it. The NPC is for amateurs. So if you're a first-timer, a noob, a beginner, you can compete in the NPC. You can work your way all the way up to their elite national level competitions. And eventually, if you're good enough, you can win your pro card and become a professional bodybuilder where you get paid for the competitions you win. When you become a pro bodybuilder, you graduate from the NPC and you move over into the IFBB, which is the professional bodybuilding division. So the NPC is amateur, the IFBB is professional, and the most prestigious competition in the IFBB is, of course, the Mr. Olympia. So that's how it works. All of that is non-drug tested. Now, if you're a natural drug tested bodybuilder and you want to compete against other fellow natural bodybuilders who are drug tested, so it's fair game, they actually have a number of different federations that are natural federations, meaning they're drug tested federations. The most popular ones have always been the INBF, the OCB, and the INBA. Now there are many, many, many more good natural federations, but those were definitely the most popular, the most abundant federations, especially back when I was competing in them. Now back in 2006, when I started bodybuilding, this was back when Jay Cutler dethroned Ronnie Coleman for the first time ever. These natural federations had a lot of hype to them. Okay, the INBF was one natural federation. That was the amateur federation. They had a professional division. That was the WNBF. So through the INBF, you could become a WNBF pro. Back when I competed in it, the OCB had a professional division called the IFPA. So you could become an IFPA pro. Think Lane Norton. And these natural pro divisions had a lot of hype and momentum behind them. There were magazines covering these natural pros. There were massive sponsorships like Civation that were sponsoring all these professional bodybuilders. I remember having a list of favorite natural pro bodybuilders. In fact, do you guys know Sean Clarita, that freaky 212 IFBB Mr. Olympia? I remember first seeing him on the cover of a WNBF magazine. He was a natural WNBF pro. I remember seeing him at these INBF competitions. It was a trip to see him grow over the years and move into the IFBB. Ben Tennyson, who was a monstrous heavyweight natural pro. Jim Cordova, a middleweight champion in the WNBF. Brian Whitaker was a shredded lightweight WNBF pro, and he brought a new definition to shredded back then. He would do like these 30-week-long preps. It was insane to watch. Lane Norton, I remember seeing Lane Norton dominate the IFPA professional league around 2010. I remember seeing him on stage. That's actually how he got his claim to fame. So there was a lot of hype behind this. And why? It was simply because back then there was no classic physique, there was no men's physique. If you were in the muscle flexing category of fitness, all you had to compete in or watch was bodybuilding. That was it. It was all bodybuilding. Nowadays, you have a lot of guys in classic physique, you have a lot of guys in men's physique, you have some in bodybuilding, you got people in wellness, you got people in figure, etc., etc., etc. Back then, all those people were pretty much crammed and condensed right into just bodybuilding. And you had two choices. Were you drug-free or were you not drug-free? That was it. So the entire population of muscle flexors were piling into both the NPC, the non-tested federation, and the drug-tested natural federations, with the INBF and the OCB hands down being the two most popular ones back in this era, 2006, 2009, when I was competing in it, at least in the US. So what happened? Nowadays, they still have natural professionals, they still have natural federations, but you don't hear about them anymore. I couldn't personally name more than 5, I don't think. You don't see any of them getting massive sponsorships. You don't see massive followings for them. You don't even see big turnouts in the shows. And this is not just an opinion. I'm actually going to show you some numbers of competition turnouts from 2009 compared to 2022 and show you the incredible difference and decline of natural bodybuilders in these natural federations. What happened? First and foremost, I think the big first blow to bodybuilding as a whole, not just natural bodybuilding, I mean the entire sport of bodybuilding, was the inception of men's physique around 2012. Men's physique hit the scene and it sucked up all the attention. Understandably so. Objectively, it is far more marketable to the general masses than bodybuilding is. The young kid who's just getting started in lifting might be a little too intimidated to throw on the man thong and try to step up on stage with a bunch of bodybuilders. You think bodybuilders, you think big. Obviously, we know that's not accurate. Some of these men's physique guys are monstrous looking, but I'm talking about at small local show levels. That's gonna appeal to the beginner a lot more. Maybe they now have the courage to step on the stage when they can do a men's physique division instead of a bodybuilding division. Also, the average gym bro who thinks bodybuilders are weird, trying to get overly muscled up and step on stage in man thongs, he may not mind stepping on stage in board shorts. The average beach bro who's getting shredded for the summer gets to now go on stage wearing exactly what he wear at the beach, just trying to fine-tune his beach physique. You know, again, not knocking men's physique. I understand at the elite levels of men's physique, those guys are nuts. But I'm talking just the general psychological outlook at a local beginner level. Men's physique brought a lot of beginning competitors who might have been hesitant to step on the bodybuilding stage on stage. And it really started taking over in a massive way. Then came classic physique. Classic physique added yet another option outside of bodybuilding. Again, those who didn't want to pound drugs may see classic physique as an outlet to compete in bodybuilding, but with less abuse, less mass being added to the body. I'm not saying classic physique is drug-free or any cleaner at the elite levels. Again, I'm just speaking from a psychological perception point, right? Of what's gonna draw people in. Even at the highest levels. The Mr. Olympia competition 2022, when looking at qualifying competitors, right? Not competitors that ended up showing up and stepping on stage. The total amount of competitors that simply qualified to compete in the Mr. Olympia. For open bodybuilding, you had 36 qualifying competitors. For the 212 Mr. Olympia, you had 36 qualifying competitors. Classic Physique had over 60 qualifying competitors, and Men's Physique had 72 qualifying competitors in 2022. So even at the Mr. Olympia level, Men's Physique has literally double the competitor interest, the volume of competitors that open bodybuilding does. So it is clear as day that men's physique and the physique category as a whole, classic physique included, is far more popular and marketable and generally accepted by the masses than bodybuilding. And this pushed bodybuilding as a sport onto the back burner now. And I'm not saying it's all the way dead. To be fair, at the top level, the Mr. Olympia level, open bodybuilding still wins the most amount of money. First place Mr. Olympia open bodybuilding wins $400,000. First place men's physique, $50,000. First place classic physique, $50,000. And back in the 90s, Mr. Olympia open bodybuilding had always in the teens for a turnout, 15, 16, 18 competitors. Early 2000s, it was low 20s. This year we had almost 30 competitors on the Olympia stage. So open bodybuilding at the top level, the Mr. Olympia level, is thriving. It's growing, it's doing phenomenally, and it's paying the most. So I'm not saying bodybuilding is totally dead, but when you're looking at just sheer overall interest in competitors, classic physique and men's physique takes the cake. Bodybuilding is this one section of fitness, and natural bodybuilding is this even smaller subsection inside of it. As this section of bodybuilding is being shrunk down because classic physique and men's physique are taking over and expanding, as it shrinks down, that already small subsection is shrinking down even smaller to almost nothing. So while bodybuilding as a whole is being pushed onto the back burner, natural bodybuilding is falling off the cliff. The OCB Spirit of America, loved that show. I competed in that show in 2009. I won the teen division and placed top 5 in the men's division. It's an awesome show. It's a large regional show in the Northeast. In 2009, before men's physique ever existed, when I competed in it, we had 40 individual bodybuilders show up and step on stage. 40 bodybuilding competitors. Fast forward to 2022, we had only 14 bodybuilders show up and compete. The men's physique category and the classic physique category filled way up. That took the place of the bodybuilding numbers we had back in 2009. Same thing with the OCB Yorton Cup, a massive pro show in 2009. We had almost 40 professional bodybuilders show up. 2022, we had 9 professional bodybuilders show up. And yet again, the men's physique and the classic physique divisions were exploding. Multiple classes to pick from in the men's physique category. Many competitors filling them right up. So men's physique and classic physique has taken over completely and shrunk bodybuilding down to nothing in these natural ranks. Now there's some psychology to this, I believe, in my personal opinion anyway. Back in 2006, when I started competing, even 2009, early 2000s, steroids were really taboo. They were not an openly discussed topic at all. That didn't really come about until the 20-teens. It started with Boston Lloyd and Rich Piana in the early 20-teens, and then grew into More Plates, More Dates, Greg Doucette, Larry Wheels, all the way until nowadays you have former Mr. Olympias talking openly about their steroid usage on podcasts. Now it's a very open thing. You have channels called the Trend Twins. It's no longer taboo. Back in the day when it was taboo and not spoken about, it developed this sort of split dark side versus the light side mentality in bodybuilding. It really did. It was like an East Coast versus West Coast mentality. Us against them. And what this did is it kind of drove up this virtuous energy behind natural bodybuilding. People would be amped and proud to be a natural bodybuilder and compete in these natural federations. Nowadays, it's a lot different though. Now, it's not so much us versus them, light side versus dark side. Now, it's so open that it's really more just like discussing over-the-counter supplements. It's like, hey, this is my preference. I like using this. This is your preference. You don't like using that. That's cool, whatever. So there's not really this big, let's get on our horses and charge forward together, brothers, mentality behind natural bodybuilding anymore, which is kind of, I think, dumbed down the hype of natural bodybuilding a little bit. Another big issue that piggybacks on top of this, there's too many federations, plain and simple. There are too many federations. Each federation really tries to isolate themselves. They isolate their competitors. I remember some of these natural pro federations would sign their professional athletes to their federations and make it so they could never shoot with another magazine besides their magazine. And these magazines were not that big. I mean, I said there's a lot of hype behind them for sure, yeah, but you're not gonna get mainstream hype. You're not gonna really ascend to fitness famous levels with these magazines alone. They limited what sponsorships they could work with. They really kind of limited what a professional could do to build their name and career, which only hurts the professional athletes and the sport itself. On top of that, you have federations suing each other for this and that. You have certain natural federations banning their athletes from competing in other federations. I know one natural federation banned their competitors, their amateur competitors, not even their professionals, their amateur competitors could not compete in the NPC. If you competed in the NPC, your membership for that natural federation got revoked. In my opinion, that is hindering and smothering and suffocating the natural industry. You're really isolating each other. There's so many different federations and they're isolating and hiding and shrinking themselves so much that they end up falling into the shadows and people stop hearing about them. Again, human psychology. People love gripping onto, supporting, competing in, and following a winner of some sort. That's the reason the NFL has been the dominant federation for football. That's why WWE has always been the shining star among all the other wrestling federations that tried to compete. This is why UFC is so popular amongst all the other mixed martial arts companies out there. Again, those companies get a lot of love and hype. I'm not saying they don't, but again, you go to the average person who knows nothing about MMA, they've heard of the UFC. They probably haven't heard of Bellator, right? Unless you're a mixed martial arts fan. Just making examples here. And this is how the NPC and the IFBB won. They are the dominant federation. That's all you know of, the NPC and the IFBB. If I were to try and find another non-drug tested federation right now, I'd actually have to Google it. I could not name one off the top of my head. In my opinion, if natural bodybuilding unified, they came together and formed one big federation, that might actually give natural bodybuilding a chance to be somewhat exciting again. I don't think they would ever grow as big as the IFBB or the NPC, and that's for a different reason I'll get into in a second. But I think if unified, if there was just one big federation for the natural side to compete in, it would at least gain like a cult following at the very least. You might even get some people that laugh at it and make fun of it and look at this joke of an attempt at a federation, but hey, people would still at least be talking about it. As opposed to now where people don't even know what the federations are to even mention them. I actually know competitors, first-time new competitors who are totally natural, young adults who competed in local NPC shows, Men's Physique, and they did not even know about the natural federations. They just looked at the NPC results from past shows. They saw that at the small local level, Little Rhode Island show, the results weren't crazy looking. The guys on stage weren't crazy looking because a lot of them are also brand new. A lot of them are also not on drugs or not abusing much at that level. So they said, hey, screw it. I just want to jump on stage. NPC is what I hear about. That's the place to be. That's where all my friends competing. That's what I see online. I'm going to jump in, see what I can do there. And they haven't even heard of the OCB or the IMBF at this point in time because you just don't hear about it online on social media. It doesn't circulate anymore like it did back in the early 2006 era. So if one big federation came about, and that was the federation for natural, it had an amateur and a pro division, just like NPC and IFBB, but it was just one, I could actually see that coming back. And I'm not even saying natural bodybuilding would come back. Bodybuilding as a whole might be in its sunset age now as far as popularity goes. I'm not sure. It might still be totally Men's Physique and Classic Physique at that point, but at least the Natural Federation would probably be known and get some attention and get a lot of competitor hype going again. You could kind of get that us versus them thing again. And lastly, I think continuing on with the psychological side of it, you know, natural bodybuilding federations just cannot compete with their venues and the overall experience of competing. Don't get me wrong. I had a blast. The most fun experiences I ever had were actually OCB and IMBF shows. Way more fun than NPC shows because NPC is so big, they charge you an arm and a leg. You know, you compete, you get this little trophy, that's that. OCB, IMBF, they made it fun. They give you goodie bags. I mean, there was a lot of energy back then. So they were such fun shows to compete in. But again, as things are evolving, the NPC and the IFBB are hosting their shows in massive stadiums or in really high-end venues, whereas these natural federations are hosting their shows in middle schools. People want to feel like they're pursuing, following, and on board with something big. And environment can really affect that. You want to eat at a nice place, you don't want to eat at a little dive. Last but not least, guys, I think the biggest thing for natural bodybuilding that's always been working against it, it's just not exciting to watch. Nobody goes to a natural bodybuilding show unless they are friends or family of the competitors. No one buys a ticket just to go and see it because they want to for fun. And I'm saying this as someone who competed in natural bodybuilding forever, so I'm not insulting anybody, I'm just stating a fact I think everybody agrees with. Or they go because there's an actual IFBB pro guest posing at one of these shows during halftime. And it's simply because human psychology, again, people love seeing extremes, man. We love seeing cars go 300 miles an hour. We love seeing strongmen deadlift 1,100 pounds. We love seeing grand slams hitting baseball, whether it's on steroids or not. We like seeing extremes. IFBB delivers extremes. These are freaks of nature. These are cartoon characters. These are the guys out of movies we grew up watching. Totally unobtainable for us. We can't even get our head around being like that. That's shock value. We want to go and see that. We want to be shocked. That's why we buy tickets to the IFBB pro shows. Natural bodybuilding is obtainable. And I'm generalizing. Obviously, there's some natural bodybuilders whose genetics and physiques are beyond what the mass majority could ever obtain. But still, it's within the realm of realisticness. They're not 22-inch arms. They're not 36-inch quads. They're not veins the size of garden hoses. And so that's always going to be something that holds back natural bodybuilding, that lack of interest. So again, the only way to combat that would be rally everyone in a way where it's almost like an us against them, an underground elitist fan base following natural bodybuilding just almost out of spite for the non-natural bodybuilding, which you could do again by getting one large federation, upgrading the venue so you feel like you're a part of something big. But until that happens, while these federations are staying diverse, you know, divide and conquer, while they're staying diverse and small, I think they're gonna keep shrinking. I don't know if they're ever gonna go out of business because I still think there will be enough Men's Physique and Classic Physique competitors showing up to these natural federations to keep them going, and that's fine. I'm happy. I wanna see them thrive. But as far as them ever gaining massive popularity again, I don't see it unless changes are made. And as far as natural bodybuilding, the whole sport of bodybuilding is on the back burner now, and natural bodybuilding, thanks to the setup, the current circumstances of natural bodybuilding federations, I think is on its deathbed. But these are just my opinions. Let me know what you think if you have any other thoughts or if you disagree. I'm open to hearing your arguments. I'm curious. Did I overlook anything? Let me know what you think in the comments below.